All right, so making this video about the greens construction project I did a little while ago, building the chipping green there. It's been a couple months, and had some time to think, that kind of thing. And I'm gonna kind of go over things that would have done differently, if budgetary things were different and that kind of thing, and explain kind of some of the long-term effects to what was done, and kind of just go from there. Just kind of making a bit of an extension to the wrap-up video kind of thing. So to start, I guess we'll just start just kind of soil profile down. Starting with the soil. Yeah, we did our own kind of blending kind of thing. We just mixed soil with sand. Blending has to be done with actual kind of like professional equipment. It's done with an actual soil blender, not with a skid steer and a rototiller kind of thing. When you're doing it this way, there's going to be pockets that are like, not everything's going to be mixed perfectly. There's going to be areas where there's more sand than soil, more soil than sand kind of thing, even if it's just like a vein, whatever kind of thing. And this can lead to, depending on the areas, like different, you'll maybe see like your green on a hot day, if you haven't seen watering in a while kind of thing, it'll almost look kind of spotted, or could look almost kind of spotted, because some areas are just draining out and drying out faster than others. This is something that is kind of concerning, but not greatly, because it's still going to be aerated and that kind of thing, and top dressed, and through aeration and that kind of thing, it will help to fix and kind of unify the profile a bit more. And like, it's not like it was like, oh, it was egregiously like you could see like sand, soil completely separately, so it was not terrible. But it is something to keep an eye out for. If you kind of see again those kind of drying out and kind of like spots, then you could probably like kind of take profile samples from there and kind of figure out that's what's going on. I guess we'll talk about the depth now. We ended up adding, like I said, like 4 to 6 inches of material, and maybe a bit more in some areas, but I think 4 to 6 was the least it kind of got to. And because we kind of built that on top of a more or less kind of dirt, clay, just kind of garbage on top or below there, it doesn't really have, like when water's kind of going through a profile, it doesn't really sit and sift through that, just because, perched water table. And because of that, the green can only hold so much water, and then it kind of sits there. So in terms of drainage, like on a heavy rainfall, like we're talking like pretty heavy, you probably could see some kind of pooling and that kind of stuff. It even means like, even after a heavy, if you're running irrigation like way too long, it could lead to it being like maybe a little soggy or something like that. You could probably let this green maybe dry up a little bit. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, that's kind of what you're looking at there. And again, if we had the budget material, we'll say that before, but I would have just rather bought 80-20, like actually properly mixed, and built up from there. And then I would have built the your 8 to 10 inches and kind of done it that way. And again, if money was infinite, then do the whole 9 yards of like internal drainage, that kind of stuff, and then maybe up it to more of like the 90-10 kind of mix, and do a actual full-on green. What else do we got here? For the bunkers, this is kind of another thing I kind of would have liked to have done differently or whatever. We just used it worked okay, I guess. Like, they have them off now, but we just used kind of like plywood to hold up the edges, because we had taken down all those super high edges because they were so built up with top dressing sand. and then kind of filled them in back with soil just to kind of keep them built up a little bit, just because we raised the green so much. It was like a pretty steep slope to where the natural soil was on those bunkers before. So I would have liked to have had actual bunker boards to kind of line the edge there, because with bunker boards, you know, you can just kind of leave them there until they start decomposing and that kind of stuff. And I think that for the long term probably would have been a lot better for it, just because, you know, you never know. Like, it's not seeing a lot of play right now because, you know, COVID and all that kind of stuff, but if it was seeing a lot more stress up of walking on those edges, you could kind of like start to kind of slide in a little bit. But like, I'm not there, but I'm just hearing blurbs, that kind of thing, that it's doing all right. For seeding and fertility, I would have loved to have had it seeded earlier. We did seed it fairly late into the year, and it came out okay in the spring, but not great. We ended up throwing Inkmat on there, and that kind of brought it up quite a bit, but still would like to have it seeded earlier. Fertility was pretty good. We pushed heavy on phosphorus and nitrogen, and then for the final app we did a fair bit of potassium. I couldn't tell you exactly what got put on there, but it was all just kind of granular, like every 2 weeks or so. Or not every 2 weeks, I guess they were like 3 weeks, but yeah. No, if money was different, like because this was just all leftover resources from when we did our greens construction, because every other green got redone. So this was just kind of like, we got leftover stuff. Our chipping green before, again, was just on that kind of crappy profile. It was just all POA. It was essentially just grass cut short and top dressed over the years that kind of made a chipping green. And I mean, it served its purpose, but you know, we wanted some a bit more, just kind of what was there. And because we have it to 4 to 6 and the profile's not like too terribly off from what we have on our greens, we could even use what's on there now as a sod, as a just in case kind of thing. Like, if you wanted to take from there, it wouldn't be the end of the world. There's a lot of flat areas there, and again, if you need to, you need to, and our nursery is in giant. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about like potential health issues with, again, just the profile not being like perfectly blended and, or not properly blended or whatever, and just the root zone not being able to build up as much as we would have liked, kind of thing, and some possible issues that could run into that. Yeah, no, I think if they keep on core aerating, I think it'll be all right though. That'll help to mitigate the issues of like the not properly blended and that kind of thing, and then yeah. All right.